How do you feel now that the album is finally out in the world?
Yeah, that's a good question. You work towards that point that an album is released and then it's kind of done creatively in a way. Of course, the show part starts. And I'm really grateful that the whole journey towards the release has been a wonderful journey, and I'm really excited to be able to share our music with the world. And so far, the responses to it has been really phenomenal. I'm really grateful for that. So yeah, I'm very happy.
Were there any challenges that you guys faced during the recording process?
No, that's actually going to be a kind of a boring answer.
There's no
it has
boring answers.
it has been a very organic, like really easy process, because with the first album you are still discovering what you're doing, and with the second album you're kind of deepening what you're doing. That's a little bit different, and our cooperation together has been so incredible. Actually, I never experienced something like this before. It was like every time the music went to the next person in the process, it was like Christmas. Everybody respects each other very much, and everybody has the same idea of what the music should be. That's not always the case. So, because everybody thinks the same about the music, it's actually really easy, and that makes it really excited when something comes back, when somebody is done with their part in that creative process. So it's every time that point was there, it was like Christmas opening a present. So it has been a wonderful journey.
Which song to you represents the essence of the album?
That's really difficult for me to say because they all have something of that. I think we chose the singles. One of the reasons for that was that they have all those elements that we have in Eye of Melian, and that makes them a good ambassador. So perhaps I should go for one of those songs. And what springs to mind is Symphonia Arcana, for example, that has a lot of those elements that we use in Eye of Melian.
And I know that this one goes more in Tolkien themes, which, explores through memory, nature, ancient magic. Which one of those themes resonates more with this album?
It all does. Of course, yeah, the title is Forest of Forgetting. We try to have an element in each album. And in this album, it's kind of like the forest. It's a forest that they can tend to have this vibe that they're ancient, and that they have a lot of stories to tell, that a lot is happening, but they can have this peaceful vibe as well, that time stands still there. Yeah, that's something that really appeals to me, I have to say. To have a peaceful forest and wandering around in that can be absolutely wonderful. And of course, in Tolkien's work, you have a lot of forests, also the more dark forests, but also the like Lothlorien kind of forests. And that really appeals to all of us, actually, this elfish world. That's something that really resonates with us.
Now, did you have any specific Tolkien characters in mind, or was it just the overall theme of Tolkien's world?
If we talk about characters, it will be quickly the elves, and then it will, for example, be Galadriel. I really wrote a song with Galadriel in mind and with Lothlorien in mind, and yeah, so it would be that.
You guys signed with Napalm Records for this record. How did that partnership come about?
Well, for my other band, Delain, I'm signed to Napalm for. I've worked with them for, I think, 15 years almost, and know the people really well. And I know what Napalm can do. And of course, Napalm is a metal label, and Eye of Melian is not metal. But so we really did think about this well. Be like, okay, what would that fit? It's easy to make the connections there, and they were really enthusiastic about it. But would that fit for our music? It struck me that a lot of metal people that like metal music, not all of them, but a lot of them have a lot of the same interests that also overlaps with. For example, I went to a Dutch Comic Con event, and a lot of metalheads walking around there. So there are a couple other things like in gaming, sci-fi, fantasy, Lord of the Rings as well, that really resonates with a lot of people that also like metal. Again, not all of them, but therefore we really thought that we would reach a lot of people that would also like our kind of music. And that for us was the decision like, okay, but then perhaps Napalm, funny enough, would be a really good label to help us reach more people.
Can you talk more about the song Dawn of Avatars?
Well, it's wonderful because we have, of course, a really wonderful cooperation with both Patty Gurdy and with Troy Dollickley. Troy, I know for years already. I toured with Nightwish many times with my other band, and Troy is, of course, a band member there. And I discovered that I listened to another band of his like way before that called Iona, and I didn't know he was part of that. And we clicked really well. And of course, his instrument, the music he makes also outside of Nightwish, really fits the world of Isle of Melian. So it was really easy to make that connection. He was also there on the previous record, and it was really funny. He's such a wonderful guy. He actually informed us, "Oh, just so you know, I will be part of the next I Million album." He's a really funny guy, and that's an honor because I think it's a great musician. And so, yeah, that's why Troy is in Dawn of Avatars. And Patty, I actually fell in love with her music and her creativity, bumping into it on social media, and really liked what she did. This kind of folkish element that she has also fits Out of Melling really well. I actually contacted her through Marco Hitala, who worked with me also in Delain, also connected to Nightwish. But she actually did a song with him. So I got her contact info, and we really got off well. It was like a click there. So this all comes together in a song like Dawn of Avatars, which has this folkish element as well.
So going from that song to, believe it's towards the end of the album, you have the Bruce Dickinson cover of Tears of the Dragon. How did that, with the track listing and planning for the album, to put the cover song there?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. Because we signed with Napalm, we thought, wouldn't it be really cool to cover a metal artist and do it with a song that resonates with us and that we can really translate into an Eye of Melian kind of vibe? Because otherwise, it doesn't make sense to cover a song. Of course, you have to make it something that fits you as an entity, what you're doing. So we shared ideas within the band, and actually at a certain point, my fellow band member Miko came up with Tears of the Dragon. And to be very honest, somehow I never really spotted that song. I mean, in the '90s, I listened a lot to metal music as well, and like this song is not particularly metal, but is of course Bruce Dickinson as being the lead singer of Iron Maiden comes from that corner, and we all really liked that song, and Miko made an arrangement on it, and it was meant as an extra bonus track, but it actually turned out to fit so well to our album that our conclusion was this isn't a bonus track. This belongs as a full track on the album. And that's actually how it came to be.
Now with the album out, juggling both projects with Delain and projects too from other members, how do you guys juggle both projects together?
Actually, it goes really organically because when you write for one project, you tour for the other. So it shifts and then it turns around at a certain point. So with two, I think for me anyway, it really works. And also for us is really it's not a side thing for us. It's really main thing. So for all of us, and Delain is for me a main thing, and I have Melian as well. I think for me that can be a very happy marriage. If I would do something additional, then it becomes really tricky. But with two bands, I think it's very well doable and actually can be a very happy marriage. And I think for Johanna, that works as well. Audi is kind of something that he surfaces once in a while, but in that band, they also have their other things like Nightwish, and they have their other projects as well. So also for Johanna, Eye of Melian fits really well. And the same goes for Robin and Miko.
I was also curious with this because with how the music industry has changed over the years. Do you think it's easier to have multiple bands now today versus I guess 20, 30 years ago?
Ooh, that's a good one. I actually don't think that makes a big difference. But there are a lot of other things in how the music industry changed that makes things more difficult. For example, now one has to be present on social media, and that takes a lot of time as well. While in the past, like 20 or 30 years ago, you sat down in a hotel room and you met the press and you did your interviews, and that basically was it. But now there's this direct connection with fans that is, at one end, really wonderful, but on the other hand, it costs time, and that's a bigger challenge than yeah. I don't think having two bands in general does make a big difference. As I said, if it becomes more than two, then it becomes really difficult. But with two, it's possible, and I think it was like that 20 or 30 years ago as well. But now, when it comes to the other factors, then that is really different.
Yeah, and it's always changing. For fun, I wanted to ask if Forest of Forgetting was turned into a fantasy film or series, what would that world look like to you?
Wow. Well, first of all, wouldn't that be amazing? I would love that. I think the Middle Earth universe would fit really well. And then especially the elfish part of the Middle Earth universe. But I also like, I don't know if you know the author Brandon Mall. He writes books like Fablehaven and Dragon Watch, and it's a kids book series, but I really like it. And that would really fit as well. There are elements in all kinds of fantasy universes that it would fit. But I think the main one would indeed be the universe of Tolkien. So it would be kind of Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, that kind of stuff.
Now that the album is out, what are the next steps for the band? I believe you guys have a tour coming up, but what's next?
Yeah, indeed, we have a tour in Finland coming up, and we really would love to tour the world. Also, North America would be amazing. It's one of my favorite places to tour. So that would be a dream come true. And we signed with a new agent, and we're going to have a meeting with him, I think in 1.5 week to discuss further plans. We're going to do a lot of theater shows as well. I think I of Melian really fits well in theater settings, so this upcoming tour are a lot of theaters too, and never in my life have I done a show with an intermission. So there's going to be a break between the set, and that's really new to me. But in the theater world, that's more normal. So that's exciting. And going to the more distant future, it's a big dream of us to be able to record with a real orchestra and not with sampled libraries, but with a real orchestra, and also to perform with a real orchestra. So in the more distant future, that's definitely our goal, to make it grow, make it bigger, because yeah, if you have a real orchestra, the music comes alive even more. I think the Eye of Melian is really suitable to play in a small setting as well. I think we have a lot of elements in place to be able to do that. Yeah, playing with a real orchestra, that's the ultimate dream.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say or add about the new album?
Well, first of all, I'm really grateful for people for their interest in listening to this interview. We are actually overwhelmed by all the responses we got. It's really special. It means a lot to us. So we're really grateful for all the support we have received in the past weeks. Yeah.